Recording in progress.
All right. Hope I'm not echoing.
Good evening, Ifepo, Miss Faye. Good evening, everyone. How are you?
Good evening. Good evening.
Michelle. The Lord is your strength. Well done. All the best, Pepsi. All the best.
Thank you very much.
All right, all the best, Faye.
All right. I think it's still 4 of us on. I hope I'm not the one causing Abby.
Yes, you are echoing a bit. There's an echo.
There's an echo. So I think it is my. Am I still echoing?
No, I think it sounds okay now.
Okay. Let's see. Am I echoing now?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
You're
Sorry,
okay.
I still had the volume on my phone. That's why. So I'm just gonna do a video check. So this is my. Let me see. Camera 1. Let me try and. Okay. So this is camera 1, and then
Okay.
hi, and this is. I think this is okay, isn't it?
Yeah, I think this is fine. I mean, we can see you like in your face and camera 1 and see what you're doing.
Doing on camera 2, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me. There's only 4 people on, and it's 2 of me, my mom, and you.
Let me let's check on the WhatsApp group chat to see what's going on.
Yes, I also sent it to HTL parents, so we have a gentle reminder.
Thank you.
Just a few more minutes. Sure to join.
Let me see. Okay. I think more people are coming on. Good evening, everyone. I think only 2 teenagers are on. 3. Okay. Hi, everyone. Hi, Abigail, Angela, Subi. How you guys doing? Nice, nice. All right. I want to see how much longer we can wait for before we start. All right, I think we should begin, or should we wait for some time?
Should we give like 5 minutes? What do you think?
Yeah, I think we can wait. I think it's been announced on all the platforms.
Yeah.
Surprised they have only 3 teenagers. Let me see. All right, we're just gonna wait for 3 more minutes so that we don't keep everyone waiting. All right, hope everyone is doing good and having a restful Sunday. Is anyone going to be cooking with me today, or is this just going to be a showcase where everybody's watching? Let me see. Toby, Abigail, Jason, did anyone bring their ingredients, or they're just here to watch and gist with me? No one is talking. Toby. All right. Okay, Jason, you're just watching. No problem. No problem. All right. I think Pastor Faye and I will just get started because of time. And also, once it gets dark, you won't be able to see the food properly. So the earlier we start, the better. And then I guess people will just join in. How does that sound, Pastor Faye? Are we good to go?
Hello? Yes, we're.
Okay. Alrighty. So, hi guys, welcome to our cooking show. I think I'll just introduce myself and then I'll allow Opasafe, do you want to go first and
So
introduce?
you're already speaking. You might as well.
Okay. So hi guys. This is a very small. I think everybody here knows me already, but I'll introduce myself again. My name is Ifepo, and you guys know obviously I teach here at TUG, but professionally I'm a chef. I went to culinary school for my bachelor's to get certified in international cuisine, culinary management, hospitality, and tourism management. So that was what I did my bachelor's in. So don't worry, you're in capable hands. And I would be able to just show you a little snippet of what I learned in school pretty much. I've been obsessed with cooking since I was a little girl. So it was really a dream of mine to get to study that. And I feel so blessed that I got the opportunity. And yeah, I am looking forward to just chatting with you. And we'll be making chicken teriyaki today. It's a Japanese cuisine. And one of my specializations in school was actually Asian cuisine. So I love Japanese food, Chinese food, Korean, Thai. But one that's very close to home is chicken teriyaki. It's very easy and quick to make. So it's gonna be a breeze this evening. Yeah, so that's it about me. Over to you, Pastor Fee.
Okay. Well, my name is Faye. I'm one of the new teachers at TUG. Um, I'm a human resources professional. I work as a recruitment specialist. I just have a flair naturally for food. I'm just a foodie baby. So I didn't go to culinary school like that, but I just love to eat and try different cuisines, um, to experiment with my palate, pretty much.
Nice.
So I look forward to having fun with you guys
Nice.
this session.
That's great. So, as you guys saw in our prompt, we're going to be talking about faith and food. And Pastor Faye will be anchoring the discussion whilst I'll be guiding you guys through the cooking session. I don't know, Pastor Faye, is your video going to be on by any chance?
Sure.
I was like, don't leave me alone.
No, I won't leave you. I won't leave you. Okay. You want us to start? Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly. Okay, so what I'm just going to do.
Go on. No, you please go.
Okay, I was just going to say that I'm going to have my camera on here to see my face, and then camera 2 will be here to see what we're cooking. Is that fine with everyone? You can give me a thumbs up if you can see camera 2.
Yes.
Can everyone see camera 2?
Yes, okay.
Okay. So what I'm now not sure of is should I keep camera 2's microphone on or keep camera 1's microphone on? I'm not sure. Oh, she's frozen.
Where you're talking, right?
Yeah, I'm talking through one, so it's going to keep popping up. And
okay.
So I'm trying to see because usually is one that that would show on the screen of the phone.
Right. I feel like the one you're talking with should be the one on because I mean you're going to be communicating anyways.
Okay.
And then we can probably use the other one since you'll be telling us what you're doing. So the other one will just be seeing what you're doing.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. All right, so over to you, Pastor Fee.
Okay. Are you gonna start with the cooking, or you just want us to chit chat first?
Okay, so what we can do is actually we just have very little things to prep. So we can do prep first,
Mhm.
just get it out of the way,
Okay.
and then dive into our conversation. I think that would be great.
Okay.
So I'll switch over now to the second microphone. I think you should. I think you should be able to hear me better.
Yeah.
Is it echoing? Okay. So chicken teriyaki. I'm going to have a quick rundown of all the ingredients. So first of all, it's going to be chicken. You can have chicken or beef teriyaki, but we're going to be doing chicken because everyone basically likes chicken. So the first ingredient, obviously is chicken, and I just have 2 chicken breasts that we're using. Chicken breasts, and you can also use chicken with bone, but it's just faster to use chicken breast because we're going to slice the chicken. I think I would go over the teriyaki sauce, which is a very basic sauce ingredient. And what I have here is soy sauce. To sweeten it, it's also a sweet sauce. So it's a sweet and salty sauce. So you can sweeten it with either, what do we have here? Brown sugar or honey. If you want to go on the healthy side, definitely go with honey. But, authentically, they would use regular sugar or brown sugar because it has more, it makes the taste deeper. We need acidity. A lot of Asian cuisines work with a lot of acidity. So you can use rice wine vinegar or apple cider. What I'm going to be using today is apple cider vinegar. They also work with a lot of garlic. So in most of my food, I have garlic. So we have garlic here that we're going to prep as well. We have spring onions, which we're going to use as a garnish at the end. And then I'm sure you guys have seen that a lot of Chinese sauces or Asian sauces in general are thick. So what they use to thicken it a lot of times is either cornstarch or flour. Most times cornstarch, and the reason they use cornstarch is because it's to make the sauce light, but at the same time thick, but velvety.
Yes, Jason, yes. She said we can use.
Someone asked, is the recipe for both chicken and meat? Yes. So you can swap your protein. And if you're a vegan, you can use tofu for this recipe as well. So I will start by just prepping the spring onions and also mincing our garlic. And usually I leave the poultry or all the protein to the very end because I don't like to work, because protein is, chicken is raw meat or raw protein as well as beef. It's best to do that last so that I just carry the knives and everything and I put it straight in to wash. So I get the veggies out of the way, then I will do the chicken last. So it's just going to be a very quick mince. And I typically just, I don't know, it might be a bit fast, but I typically just hold my knife like so, okay, with just my knuckles, and I hold the food like this. I don't know how best to explain it, but when we're cutting, we cut very quickly. But as you're doing it, you're using your fingertips and your knuckles to sort of hold down the food. But at the same time, you're guarding your fingertips against being chopped off. So I just go like this. Lay it down. So I think the table might be moving a bit.
So the first time you ever had to try this, cutting skills, I'm
so
guessing
usually
it was
the ends, these things right here, I keep it for if I'm making any stock. These are usually a bit on the bitter side, so I stick with the lighter part of the spring onions. And that is it as far as our prep goes. I would just have this in right here. I any questions, you can just put it in the chat. We're going to go
Can you hear me,
with our garlic, and it's just relatively quick. To remove the skin, I just smash everything together and the skin comes off right away. Once I do that, it's easy for the skin to just peel right off. Also here, the skin just peels off relatively easily. This one is being a bit stubborn. All right. And I'll mince it as well. So the garlic, I want it to be a bit on the finer side, so I'll double mince it. That's about it. So once we're done with all that, I'm going to move this and put this in here. And then last but not the least, we have our chicken. So let me trash all this. I like to work on a clean board.
Can you hear me, Ifepo?
All right. So with our chicken, I'm going to first, I don't know if you guys, I think you guys would be able to see
Chicken.
the board. Can everyone see the board, or should I move it to the
Can you hear
closer?
me? Can anyone even hear me?
Yes,
I
I
think
can
you're
hear you.
muted.
But I don't think
here.
here.
Ifepo, can you hear me, Faye?
Oh, so sorry. I had the volume off. So sorry. I can hear you now.
It's okay. Okay.
What did
So
you
I
say,
was
Pastor?
asking you, right? Yeah, I said I want to believe that your the chopping skills you pretty much learned it during culinary school. Am I correct?
Oh, so sorry. Hold on. Say that again, please. Okay, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I was saying that I want to believe you learned your chopping skills during culinary school.
Yes, I did. So we had to even do like chopping exams in culinary school.
I mean, that was true. How was that for you? Like the first time having to, because just merely watching you cut this way, I literally have been scared for you myself. Like, I hope she's not going to chop her fingers. So how was it like the first time? And how would you relate that in any way to faith? Because I feel like right now you pretty much are so fast, you trust your skills, right?
Yeah.
You trust that if I cut this way, you're already teaching us how to hold the knife and all of that. So how are you going to relate that to us trusting God? So pretty much talk us through the first time you learned this. What was the experience like for you?
So I think it's so beautiful that you asked that question at this time, because I think, let me switch quickly to, sorry. Okay. All right, I believe you can hear me on this part, isn't it? Okay. So when I started and I was seeing everyone do I was like, there's no way I'm not going to chop my fingers off. And I remember the chef kept reiterating, fingertips in, knuckles out, you're not going to chop your finger, I promise. And it was that how this speaks to me biblically, honestly, is that God already says, like, we can trust him. So, and a lot of things in the Bible, all the trust, like all the biblical guidelines and the blueprints, trust in the Lord with all your heart and not in your own understanding, or if you pray, believe that God has answered your prayers. Sorry, I just paraphrase that Bible passage. But why this relates so well to cooking for me is that cooking is almost robotic in the sense that if you do X, Y, Z, if you do ABC, or if you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 will happen. And I feel like it's how the Bible is. God says, if you do these things, if you obey my commandments, you would XYZ would happen, or you will be blessed, or you will be favored, or you would hear my voice. If you call on me, I would answer you. If you do this, I will do that. And I feel like God is not, sometimes he might be quiet and sometimes it might seem like things are not making sense. But I feel like God has given us a recipe book to life, and or even just to go about living in on this earth. And I think when I started culinary school, and I would even talk about my first job working in I worked at a 5-star restaurant, and the intensity of it was so crazy to me because once I got the job, they just gave me a fat recipe book. They didn't teach me how to cook. They didn't tell me what to do. The recipe book had all the guidelines of the cubic meter the cheese had to be cut, and how the potato had to be spiralized, and all these technicalities. But I literally just needed to obey that book to get through work. And I think that's how it relates with me and just Christianity and my relationship with God. The more I obey the Bible and what it says, life is more straightforward for me. When I'm being disobedient and I try to cut corners, like if I'm trying to rush through and I now get clumsy, and in me chopping, I've cut myself several times. And I knew that was because I wasn't obeying the technique that I've been taught. It's the same as the Bible. When we're not obeying the guidelines that the Bible has clearly given us, we end up hurting ourselves, literally, emotionally, physically, mentally. And I think that's why for me, with cooking, you almost have to, like, you can obviously be creative, but a lot of things are very, very structured. The way you chop. If you want to get a julienne, and a julienne is a type of a cut. There's only literally like a technique to get it. And if you try and be doing rigmarole, you will not get the cut. So in the beginning, when I started, I wanted to always cut corners. And my chef would look at, let's say he'll look at the potato, or he'll look at the garlic, and he'll be like, this is wrongly chopped, and he'll toss it in the trash. And I'll be like, oh, but this is what you asked for. But because I wasn't doing the right technique, he could already tell that I tried to cut corners just by looking at it. So that's really how I would relate it, that the Bible is our recipe to life. And if we don't follow it, we're going to just have a chaotic life.
I mean, that's really interesting. But I want to go back to, you said you started working at a 5-star restaurant when you were done, but then all they just did was give you this huge book, and there was literally no physical person, telling you do this, do this. How did that feel? I mean, did you feel like you were just thrown into the deep end? How did you feel?
So I definitely
Did you feel abandoned?
Say that again.
Did you feel abandoned any time?
Yes. So sometimes I feel like how I felt would be like how the disciples felt when Jesus was like, I'm leaving you, but I'm leaving you with the Holy Spirit, who is going to guide you to all truth, and who is going to tell you what is ahead and everything. Literally, the book had everything that I needed, but I was craving human guideline, or human guidance. And it's almost, they stripped me of that privilege, but I see that it forced me to really rely on that book, on that. And it was a very massive booklet, but it forced me to sit with it and actually study it and understand it, because everything I needed was there. I feel like that's how it is with God leaving us the Bible and the Holy Spirit. A lot of times I'm just like, Jesus, why can't you just come down and do this thing for me?
I know, right?
I don't, like I know sometimes I used to when I was young, I used to be like, God, all this dating, why can't you just come down and
I'm
bring me
telling
down to
you,
my
just
doorstep?
be the person. Let's be all right.
Honestly, like I just used to feel so stressed. Like, God, if you were physically here, I wouldn't be stressing out like this. But the honest truth is that everything He has given us is in the Bible that we need, is in the Bible and is with the Holy Spirit. And I've been forced because Jesus is not coming. Like, I don't know when He's going to come. But all through these my years of living, He's still not come yet. So I've actually been forced to study the Bible. Same way I was forced to just sit with that booklet for days, for nights, to just study it and understand what I needed to do to just move forward.
Okay, Ifepo, there's a question here. Someone says, when it comes to the knife, I have learned that the perfect knife is based on the handle and how it fits on your hand. Do you go by that rule? And if you have, has it better helped you with handling of your knife?
I would say for sure that one of the more pricey things in this kitchen are our knives. My mom can even testify of that. The better quality and the better the quality of the steel, the better your cut of everything. And something I'll just show you quickly is the knife sharpener that we have. So when you're cutting and if you want to avoid cutting yourself, it's very important to just make sure, and it sounds ironic, but if your knife is sharpened, you have a better probability of not cutting yourself than when you're cutting with a dull knife. So in regards to so for example, if I'm cutting this chicken and it's a dull knife, I would actually be struggling more to get the cut through. And in that cut, my hands might move around and my table might move around. When the knife is already sharp, it goes one time and the cut is already done. Let me move this out of the way. So most times, whenever I want to start cutting, I just sharpen the knife and make sure it's not dull, because if it's dull, I'm going to have to be using force, and that can even be more hazardous. So yes, the sharper the better, Jason.
Okay, so what are we currently doing now? The chicken?
Yes, so I'm making them into strips, and you can either actually pan sear it like this, but it's much faster. One thing about me and one thing I learned in school is you really don't need to be spending 50 hours in the kitchen. So the fastest cooking technique possible is what I rely on. And I naturally just don't like spending a lot of time in the kitchen. I would just rather, see how short or what I can do to make the time shorter and, just get it out of the way. So right now we're just doing all the chicken strips, and then we're going to transfer it to the pan. I'm almost done. I just have this left. And also with your knife being sharp, everything is just faster. So I would actually just encourage to invest in a good quality knife and also to get a sharpener as well. So I think we're done with the prep, and everything else is going to be very fast from here on.
You said something now. You said in culinary school they told you there are ways you can prep and do everything such that you don't have to spend 50 minutes or long hours like some of us have to do in the kitchen. And I'm thinking about this, and I want to believe that you can do all of this and still not cut corners. Yes? So you still follow all the techniques. and you're still not
Yes.
cooking. And you would then
Yes.
not spend so much time in the kitchen.
Yes.
So
So
I'm trying
what
to think
actually,
about
sorry,
it.
go on.
Okay, go on. Go on first before I
No, no,
go.
I was actually going to correct myself for a second. So there are
Okay.
some recipes that there's no way to make a braised lamb is going to take hours. To make a sous vide pork is going to take hours. Like the technique requires the time. And there's been times where the first job I had was in a Colombian restaurant, and we used to have braised lamb. We used to have braised we used to braise an entire like I forget the part of the cow, a bison. We used to braise the bison. We used to have different cuts of meats that would require at least 8 hours to be braised in the oven. And I remember my boss used to tell us that we needed to spend the night in the restaurant, and we would take shifts where I would be either me or the head chef. We would have an air mattress, and we would sleep in the restaurant just to watch the meat being braised in the oven, because
Wow.
it needed at least 12 hours for it to be ready for our brunch service. And so I want to correct myself by saying that there are just certain things in life that would take time. And if you try to like maybe if you try to cut corner, so for example, if you want to make chicken and you want to make chicken breast, it is softer and more tender if you pan sear it whole than you pan sear it in um, slices like this,
Strips.
in strips like this. So because we are going to quickly sear it because we're searing it with a sauce, the sauce is going to help to soften and tenderize the chicken. But if you're just having chicken breast by itself, you have to just give it the time in a very low heat to sear on one side, to sear on the other side, and it's going to take longer than it being in strips. But you get a better result for waiting for the chicken to be completely pan-seared on a very low and slow temperature. I don't know if I've mixed I've mixed things up, but there are things that definitely require time.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I mean, that's good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, if we tie this, to life, are you saying now that, for example, there are things that, you can get faster, in life, and then there's some other things, that would take so much time. And then my question to the ones that would take so much time is, I mean, say, for example, it's something that you let me not use desperately, let me say passionately, right? It's something that you passionately want, and then you just have to do this waiting game. Tell us if you're willing to, anything in your life that you've had to go through and you've faced that waiting game, and how and what keeps you going, what keeps you going?
I would say honestly, what have I had to wait for? Um, so this is something that I indirectly waited for, but how would I? Okay, let me just say the storyline. When I was younger, in my heart, like I wanted to work with the Food Network chefs. All the food shows that you see on the Food Network. It was just my dream and my desire to actually I just wanted to meet them and have the opportunity to work for them. And this was something that I always wanted to do as a child. Obviously, life happens. I went to secondary school. When you just don't think it can ever happen, but you've told God though that God, this like when it's like, God, I really wish I could meet this person. I really wish I could have this opportunity. And I think one Bible verse that I love so much is commit your ways unto the Lord and he will direct your path. And everything I do is very important for me to just make sure I'm in partnership with God to get to through the process, because I know that He would direct me into His desired end at the end of the day. So fast
Right.
forward to how many years later, I even go to university and I'm not even studying. I'm not even studying what's it called? Culinary management. I actually went to school to study international business. Year one passed, year two passed, and I was studying international business. And it's almost like God God shocked me so much, because what were the odds that my school, my university, was the university that they recruited chefs to work for the Food Network. I would not have possibly fathomed it. And I remember one day just casually walking through school, and I saw the flyers that the South Beach Food and Wine Festival was about to happen, and these were the lineup of chefs, and they needed these were the lineup of Food Network chefs coming, and they were recruiting chefs, and you needed to be a management major to be recruited. And I thought to myself, God,
Right.
it's like this is not even a coincidence. This is you. Like it's almost like even sometimes you tell God the desires of your heart and you even forget about it, but God has not forgotten. He would bring it at the right time or when it is best for you. So I literally remember begging my parents that I needed to switch my major. And it made no sense because I was just like, I have 2 years to graduate. And what my major would mean is that I have to be backtracked a bit and take on a bit more classes to be able to catch up with the culinary management program. But I begged and begged and begged, like this, like like this, like I promised our next trip is that this is what I want to do. And I remember my mom is even on here. She was just like, this is not what we sent you all the way to America to be doing. You're not supposed to feel this. And I just knew that that was God just being like, here, this is the door I'm opening for you. So they wanted me to switch, and I switched the program, and I now got the opportunity for the next 4 years. I was working with the Food Network, and then I that was when I got transferred to work in that fine dining place. But when I see the journey, I think to myself how someone said their favorite chef is Gordon Ramsay. Yeah, I've not met Gordon Ramsay because he's a British chef, but yeah, he's amazing. Um, but I just think of the journey of everything, and even me having to take on more classes. And at a point, it was not even looking like this was going to happen, because if my parents said no, is no, no, no. Like I have to just accept it. But I just see how this was something that I desired as a child, and I would always just reflect on it and just seeing how God eventually brought it to fruition is just one of the things that makes me hold on to God's word. That if God says it will happen, it will happen as it says. And when you tell him the desires of your heart, if he knows that this would be good for you, he would make it happen. So yeah, that's what I would have to say in terms of something I've had to wait for.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm going to take you guys to the stove top just so that we can quickly make the chicken. You guys may not be able to see it clearly, but um, you can go ahead, Pastor Faye.
Oh, okay. I mean, before I go ahead, there's a question here. So, someone was asking you who your favorite chef or a chef that you look up to is.
So growing up, the chef I looked up to was Paula Dean. And it's ironic because of the whole racism thing that happened. So when this racism thing, Pauline she used to be a very popular Food Network chef, and Guy Fieri. Guy Fieri is my second favorite. So I got to work with him as well. But Paula Dean had this whole racial thing where there were a lot of things that got disclosed about her that, you know, she's made racist comments about slaves and Black people. And that was actually around the time that the scandal happened that I got to meet her in person. And I had to work with her to help supervise some things because there was so much paparazzi and she was getting so much heat. So I was actually the only Black person in her cubicle. But you know when you just love someone so much that what she did or how she behaved, it didn't, I don't even know, like I still gave her a hug and I was just like, I've admired you since I was a child, everything. So I got the opportunity to work with her and to meet her, even with the scandal and everything. At the end of the day, God has called us to love. So I wasn't just going to say, oh, I was going to join my Black chefs and not work with her because she's a racist or they claim she's a racist. This is someone's craft that I still admire and I look up to. So I went myself and I felt fulfilled by doing it. Yeah. That those two people. Yes, so I'm listening to you.
There's another question here that says, what would you say is the best way to cook a chicken that would ensure that your chicken isn't overcooked, but perfectly cooked and not dry?
Okay, so what I would say is having a grill pan, and I don't have one out here with me. I'll have to dig into the pantry. But when you grill chicken, either on a barbecue grill or a what's it called on a grilled pan, it's able to, the heat from the cast iron is able to penetrate into the chicken faster without it getting dry. When you use a pan, sorry, let me just get the chicken. And I'm just pouring the chicken into the pan here. Maybe a bit noisy, sorry. Okay. So as I'm talking now, I want to make sure I'm not getting the wrong temperature for you guys because it's been a minute since I've looked this up. But let me check. Okay. So when you're grilling chicken, it depends on what kind of chicken you're grilling. Are you grilling a whole chicken, or are you grilling a chicken breast, or are you grilling chicken wings or boneless drumsticks? All of them have different degrees. So when it comes to generally grilled chicken breast, the average cooking temperature they say is to have it between 160 to 165 degrees. And you're going to need a thermometer for that to just take it into the chicken to have it, reach that temperature for you to know. But it's going to be a completely different temperature. That's what I was trying to look for. If you want to grill a whole chicken, and if you want to grill bone chicken as well, but roughly chicken breasts, chicken thighs are 160 to 165 degrees. Was there any other question?
No. Someone just only asked what we're cooking. I have been able to. So what are we currently doing now?
So we're prepping the chicken. Let me see how I can bring this as close to the stove as possible. But I just have the chicken here, and what I'm just doing is getting it to just sear a bit on all sides. Some sides are still a bit pink, so I just want to get it to be completely cooked and also have a little bit of a browning to it. But yeah, that's just what we're doing now.
So how long does this one, does it take?
It should take, usually you eyeball it, depending on how high your heat is, you just typically eyeball it and Basically, when you see it start browning a bit, you know that it's ready. So I'm going to take you here because what we're going to do now is to do the sauce. Yeah, I think everybody should be able to see that and see me here. All right. So I'm starting with the soy sauce. Actually, it should have been better for me to start with. Let's do that again. I'm going to start with the flour and I'm going to explain why. So flour or your corn flour, and then I'm going to gradually pour in the soy sauce inside as I mix it. And the reason I'm doing that is so that there aren't any clumps that form when I add it towards the end. Okay, Pastor T, I'm listening to you.
I mean, one thing I know I can clearly tell in this whole, just watching you, especially when you were pouring this soy sauce, is that cooking takes patience. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I was just wondering, I was about to ask you, couldn't you just pour all that soy sauce instead of, this the gradual stage that you
Yeah.
doing? But like you rightly said, right, if you do that, you have lumps and all. But how, in life, like, I mean, obviously, I can clearly say, like, I've had times, because you mentioned something when I was asking you about how long it would take to, for the chicken, and you said you eyeball it, right? And this got me thinking, because in my mind, I'm like, look, I'm sure there are times in life that I've been able to eyeball things, and I'm like, look, I believe it's good to go.
Yeah.
And then you find out that, no, actually, it's not good to go. Like, it doesn't work out like you expect it to work out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm asking myself, but I eyeballed this thing. So how do you, sometimes you then have to go back to God, and then, it sometimes can be frustrating. So my question to you now is, how do we, still hold on to God, whereby, because don't forget, you can also see other people, doing the same thing you're doing, and they just get it like that, right? And then you were going through the process like you are. They most likely probably went through the shortcut, like you said, we
Yeah.
shouldn't, and they got it. And then
Mm-hmm.
you were going through the process. You were
Yeah.
making sure you don't have your knuckles in, you don't pour
Mm-hmm.
all the soy, so you don't do everything. You do it properly, but then you still don't get the result, and they get it.
Yeah.
How do you still hold on to God in the midst of all of this?
I think sometimes as you're talking, I'm realizing that it's easier said than done. There are a lot of times that we just want answers quick and we just want results quick. And God is like, no, it's going to take time. Like what you're desiring is going to take time. So, for example, I know like me and when we started applying to schools, for example, I'm going to use the story of my best friend. Every one of us, we were getting admissions to different universities, and it, it at a point it was just like after maybe a month, I've started school a month, I started school in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, she had still not gotten admission. And it made no sense why there was a delay. And I'm so sure in that season, she could have easily just taken a community college or a smaller school that she didn't really desire. But she knew a school that she wanted to go to, and that was what she was waiting for. But that school was delaying. I'm gonna take us back to the top. But the school was delaying, but she chose to wait till she got answers from the school. And I feel like a lot of times
Right.
when God doesn't open certain doors for us is because he's either saying no or he's saying not yet. And a lot of times when I've chosen to take the shortcut or the easy way out, so even in my school, I could have chosen to just go to a culinary school in Florida or actually do a 4-year course in culinary management. If I went to culinary school, it would have just been a year and I would have been done with and moved on with my life. But going through the going through the bachelor degree route meant that I had to study this thing for 4 years. And then I had to work 1,800 working hours before I graduated. The whole journey did not, like, it was long. But at the very end of the journey, when I saw the chefs from culinary school that did a year, and I, for example, that's okay, I did the 4-year course and everything. When it came to do with um sorry, someone commented something. But let me just round up. I was saying when it came to managerial positions and who can be the operations manager of the restaurant, or who can be the head chef, or who can be this, they wanted someone who had gone through a longer time in the industry than someone that had just gotten a 1-year certification. Now, this is not even to diminish a 1-year certification in culinary school, because that in itself is rigorous.
Yeah.
But I saw that I now appreciated not taking the shortcut than, me taking that long 4-year time to, get to that end. So sometimes when there's a delay or when things are not happening faster for you, is probably because God has a bigger or better plan for you. Like my friend that I was giving a story about, at the end of the day, she got to Georgetown, she got admission to Georgetown Law, and that's like the second biggest university for law in the US. So seeing that she waited for that and she just trusted God that this is what she would get, ended up working out for her good than, cutting corners. So sometimes it might not be the most glamorous thing to wait. To wait on God, it can be very frustrating. But I think God makes all things work out for our good.
Okay. There's a question here that says, how do you make a marmalade sauce for the chicken? And how does the flavor get into the chicken?
Okay, so a marmalade sauce is completely different from the sauce I'm making now. This is just a very basic teriyaki sauce, and what it has is soy sauce, um, garlic. You can add ginger if you like, but there's no ginger in this. Garlic, brown sugar, and then to thicken it, I added a bit of. You can add either corn flour or regular flour. So that's the base of the sauce. And then in terms of flavoring it, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pour, and I'm going to just quickly show you guys. Let me put my lights on. I think you guys can see it a bit better. Yeah, okay. So this is how I'm not sure you can see it. Oh, the lighting is so shiny. But I just wanted it to have a little bit of a browning, a
We
little
can, yeah.
Yeah. And then what I'm going to do is now pour the sauce inside. And I'm going to leave it to simmer for a bit. And what it's going to do is going to thicken, and then it's also going to season the chicken as well. So we're just going to leave that for some time. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm back.
So what are we? While that is simmering, what is the next step?
So that's it. The rice is
That's
ready.
about it for the top.
That's it. Yeah, the rice is ready. Everything else is just to
Wow.
plate it, and it
Oh
used to be
wow.
my go-to dinner because it's just very quick to make, and I don't have to worry about all the steps because there are certain meals that are just going to take some time, but this one is
Mhm.
relatively fast. Yes. Let me
You know,
put.
something comes to my mind, when I think about, because this is super, I don't think it's taking us up to 15, 20 minutes,
No,
to
it's
do
because
all of this.
we've been gisting and everything, but
Exactly.
it's very
And
quick.
I'm thinking to myself, I know that you can honestly get a good chicken teriyaki for, I don't know, $10, I guess, if not less. And then, but then if you want to do like a rib stick eye, for example, that's going to be
Mm-hmm.
quite pricey, and
Mm-hmm.
like you were saying, process when you were there, you had to stay at the restaurant and wait. But then again, obviously that one would cost a lot. Like you're not going to definitely get one for $10. And
Mm-hmm.
what comes to mind for me is that while something might look okay, it's super fast, it's super, but when God is actually cooking something and it looks like it's going to take so much time, whilst in the process of that time, there's actually seeds that are being planted. We can always sow the seed of, like you sowed the seed of time. You sat at the
Mm-hmm.
restaurant all night and you waited. You probably needed to check this, check that, and when the harvest comes, it would then more or less even more than compensate for the wait. Okay, because I can't imagine a restaurant that's obviously just a steak restaurant. Okay, they're obviously going to, I mean, it's not, you're not going to go in there and get a meal of $10. That is set. Like, you're
Yes.
just not going to. Okay, so at the end of the day, it's going to pay off. It would take a lot of time, the part of the chefs, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So what just comes to my mind is, whilst faith, it can look tiring, the journey can look tiring for whatever it is that we're trusting God for or looking unto God for. But then the truth is that, like you said, God doesn't, one thing about God is that he's not blind. He doesn't forget.
Mm-hmm.
He's not one person that, I think one thing I've also come to realize that he doesn't think anything we're asking him for is silly. To
Yes.
us, it might sound like this thing, oh God, is what, no, but then it comes to her and I'm like, actually, it doesn't, nothing sounds silly to God. It's
Mm-hmm.
like everything, that you desire, because at the end of the day, we all have God in us,
Mm-hmm.
which is the person of the Holy Spirit. So
Yes.
whatever it is that we desire, can be, it's just not how you channel it. It can be used at the end of the day for God's glory. At the end of the day, it's just not how we channel it. That's really just while you were talking, I was just like, actually, it's true. Like, this whole faith journey can be tiring. Let's not even, which is why I was asking you how you could cope, when you got to the restaurant and all they gave you was just a book. And I'm just thinking to
Yeah.
myself, I can't imagine going through the journey of life
Mm-hmm.
alone. Which is one of the things I love about this whole TUG, what we're doing for the summer camp.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, it gets you to, meet other people,
Yeah.
and then you realize there's really nothing you're going through. It might be different in the sense that maybe yours is it's another person's emotional. Then one thing that is common
Mm-hmm.
is there is a weight.
Yeah.
Everybody's probably going through some
It's
weight
true.
in their life. There is, I don't know that there's anybody that has gone through life
Mm-hmm.
or that is still going through life and doesn't have a weight journey. So
Yeah.
that lie, sometimes that kind of thing, like, oh look, this person is just getting it. And if you sit down with that person, probably there's been a weight, But then at the time you met that person just got it. So you didn't know the back end story, because obviously now someone meeting you now and like, oh wow, people, she's a chef, she works in a 5-star chef. But then if they put this, they just met you, right? But then they weren't in your life. Like imagine you were in school already, you were already studying a course, and then you then switched just because you wanted to actualize your dream. So I feel like for me, one thing that's very evident here is that God is not a wicked God. It might look like, oh, this person got it, so this person is his favorite. I'm not his favorite, but then that's actually not true in itself. I think that's just a lie of the enemy to make us feel like, why am I waiting for this? And then other people are getting it. But then if you find out that person too waited, and even if they don't wait, there is probably something else in their life they're probably waiting for. Yeah.
I agree. And I think what the irony of life is that a lot of times God takes us on a journey that does not make any sense. And it's only when you get to the end, and I'm still in my journey. So for example, my career as a chef was honestly like, when I tell people, or when I show my CV to people, it's like, oh, you've worked for these people, you've done this, you've done that. Oh, that's so amazing. But the reality of my journey is that my 7th year in America, I had to move back to Nigeria because I'm not a citizen, and I couldn't get retained because I chose to go and do my master's, and me doing my master's meant my company couldn't file for me at the time. And once I was done with my master's and I wanted them to file for me, because I'd taken a gap year, they didn't have any work history to file for me with. And that meant I had to move back to Nigeria. And that journey for me was and my parents can even testify to it, that it was one of the hardest pills I had to swallow, because I knew that the culinary industry in Nigeria had not just developed then. I remember when I moved and I started applying for roles to be a head chef or an operations manager in a restaurant or a hotel, and they were offering me 60,000 naira. And I thought to myself, I told my dad, and it was so laughable at the time, because I went from earning a salary that I was flexing with, because that at age 20, being an operations manager at a restaurant was a big flex. Like it was honestly a blessing from God, because a lot of people would wait, a lot of people would achieve that in their 40s and things. So even getting that opportunity or that promotion at that age was such a huge blessing. But God now took me back to the wilderness, where I came back to Nigeria and I had to start over. And I was like, God, there's no way I'm going to take a 60K, 6,000 naira a month. And I would apply to, quote unquote, prestigious companies, but they had such a low appreciation for chefs that I could not accept the level of belittling that they gave chefs in Nigeria. So I would go to restaurants or places where there are Lambos and the owners are with Lambos and Porsches and everything, and they're interviewing me and they're like, so what can you cook? So are you a cook or are you a chef? So what makes you a good cook? Like, those were the interviews that I would have. And I would come out and I'm like, there's no way. Like, there's just no way. So what ended up happening was I went through a career change where I now literally submitted that, God, this thing is not working. This chef thing is not working in Nigeria at the time. And this was in 2018, 2019. And I had to trust God to do a career change into finance. And that was something I had no idea whatsoever. A chef working in finance. And I just realized that, wow, I understand why God used those years of me doing international business to work for my good. And I now got into working for finance. And even this year, I stopped working my finance job and I started a hairline. It's, the journey is so twisted. But I started making organic oils for people dealing with alopecia and hair loss because it was just pressing in my heart to help women dealing with hair loss issues. But it was my expertise in culinary school that taught me a lot about oils, which was a really small fraction of what I was taught in culinary school. But it was that knowledge that I got that I used towards starting a hairline that has been doing so well. So the journey of my career has been like this, but I see how God has used literally everything, not leaving anything behind. He's used every encounter, every experience to work out for my good, even with just how I'm good with numbers. And that was a skill set that I'd gotten from just my short time doing international business and me doing me doing a lot of accounting classes in my first 2 years. God just used that for my season in finance. And then when that season was wrapping up and I was telling God that I'm tired, I'm not enjoying it and everything, he now brought back my culinary expertise into this business. So what I even want to say is that a lot of times God might not even tell you yes or no.
Yeah.
You have to just be like, God, I want to do XYZ and I want you to guide me and walk me through. And I want you to lead. And if it's not God's will, he will slowly just close the door for you. If it's his will, he will open it in such a way that the people that will be led to you, the doors that he would open, you would know that, this is God orchestrating this. And so even with life, don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid, but, also be very discerning that when God says no, you know in your heart it is no. And you know that this is not giving you peace of mind, is not giving you clarity. You're just things are just not working out. And you know that that's God telling you that it's not his will. Don't try and force it to happen, because there's been job positions and roles that I've tried to force to happen and it ended up being very emotionally draining. And I knew that God told me not to take the job. So I would say that it's very important to partner with God through life, because one minute you're high, the other minute you're low. The other minute God takes you higher than you're high and he brings you through a wilderness again. And it's just it takes you and it makes you very humble through all your seasons of life. And when things are great, it makes you very appreciative. But even when things are low, you are still grateful, because God will teach you how to live with a lot and how to live with little, and how to just rely on him sufficiently for all your needs. So that's even what I would say when it comes to just working with God through life. Is not going to be a straight journey. It's not going to be ABC. It's going to be AQKD. Everything is just going to be doing basketballs sometimes. But God will just align everything. And as long as you keep working with him, he will just make it all work out for your good. That's really what I've learned out of life. What do you have to say, Sitfe?
You've honestly said, said everything. I don't know. Yeah, it's what I know I can say is just that when you go through that, just like you said about the highs and the lows, especially the lows. It's easy to talk about the highs, but the lows, I think one thing I can say is when you appreciate God in the highs, you'd see reason not to leave
Very
God
true.
in the lows. So, when it's not rocket science. Like I feel like you would realize this person actually could do this for me, right? Because I don't know, I'm sure each and every one of us had a time where you've literally asked God for something, and as you asked him, he actually gave it to you. So like there was no waiting game. There was no, he actually gave you. And then there'll be times when you're now, that'll give you more boost to say, okay, so I can, ask this God. And then you go to ask him for something else. And now there is a waiting game. I feel like, what makes us a bit tired of the waiting game is like, I asked you for and you gave me. So why do I have to wait? But then when you just realize it's not, probably this one I'm asking him for is not a chicken teriyaki-ish kind of thing. Okay, so it's not something that he just feels I need to wait. And one thing I've also noticed is that there is actually no waiting period, except you just go through it blindly. But for every wait, you find out there is always a lesson.
Yes, I agree.
There's always something that comes up. There is always something. Yeah, like you would always see why. Although sometimes though, if I don't like, sometimes I feel like there are some ways I'm not seeing why, but then you would still, how do I say it now? You won't regret the wait. Let me just put it that way, right? You won't. There's some things, with God that I feel like sometimes they don't make sense. But then in the course of them not making sense, you still see that he's actually still a good person. Like he's still a good God. Like, so for example, for me, I remember when I lost my mom, and I remember thinking to myself, hang on, this God is not making any sense. And I remember, in fact, for like, I think a year or so, I remember my brother telling, in fact, it was almost like a ban that he gave, like that name, Jesus, he was not interested. You can say it in the house, but not to his hearing, because for him, it was like, these gods that we're calling is the same God that, my mom devoted all her life to. So for him, it's like, it doesn't make any sense. If he can abandon her, and let her go, then why do I need to call on him? And I would lie, for a while I felt that way.
Yeah.
But I'm now I can't. I'll be a fat liar if I say I understand why. I don't. And I think I've come to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm not sure I will ever understand why. And one of the things I said, just one thing I've promised myself, and I'm sure you're listening to, which is God. That's the kind of conversation I have with him is when at home, when I get to heaven, all I'm gonna ask you was after you give the whole, oh my God, just I don't know if it's the Holy Spirit, I don't know who else will be welcoming the other people. But one thing he said to me, I'm gonna try this. Then you now give me the answers because I'm gonna get my answers. That's all I know. And so what has kept me in the journey and still loving God and all of that is the fact that I just know for him to have even given her to me in the first place, he's good. Because I boast about my mom in the sense that a lot of people I had to share my mom with a lot of people, but she was wonderful of a woman. So I still hold on to him because I'm like, well, I might have been one of those other people that had to share her, but then I wasn't. I had full access to her. So you love me that much to give her to me. And you love me so much that I'd grown. Like I wasn't a kid. I wasn't, so young before she passed on. I was grown. She had impacted a lot in me, before she left. So you pretty much not concerned. That part of my life that happened, and it makes me feel like, oops, she could have been here. For example, I'm getting married or I have a kid. I'm gonna think about it, right? But then what I go back to is, well, God actually gave me the opportunity to have a kid. God gave me the opportunity to be married. Okay, so he loves me. And then it's more or less like there's a story that can be told. There's a big picture. So the small picture that the enemy wants me to see is my mom is not here. That's the small picture. It's a painful picture, But then the grand scheme of it is that there is a generation coming out from her, passed on to me, that could win so many souls for God, that could actually shatter the kingdom of the enemy. Okay, so that's the part that God doesn't want you to see.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just that I feel like with everything we go through in life, the devil actually puts our eye on that small picture.
Yeah.
Which is the painful part. Let's not lie. But then he makes us forget the big picture, which is what. So sometimes these days, what I always ask from God is, help me see your perspective. Because sometimes when we see God's perspective, we see a better side to everything. And some things can start making sense to us.
Yeah. That's such a beautiful story. I want to add something to what you just said, but I'm gonna just show everyone on, let me just switch cameras quickly. Okay. All right. I think everyone will be able to hear me on here better. Okay, so what we have here, let me see if it's clear. All right, so what we have here are charred grilled broccoli. And I love my broccoli charred. And what I mean by charring it is that I have this cast iron pan here, and I don't cook it with any oil or any water. I just let the heat from the pan char it. And it gives it a crunch on the sides, and it now gives it like a salty taste, because like when you sprinkle it with a bit of salt, so those salt areas now crystallize and form these charred bits on the side. And when you're eating it all together, so the salty charred bits with the regular just the regular broccoli, I don't know, the taste, I just prefer it charred than having it just plainly steamed. So that's why I did it that way. And then another thing I like to char also are my onions. So here is the chicken teriyaki. And let me move this here so the lighting might be a bit better. Let me see. Is the lighting good? So what's happened is the flour has thickened the sauce, and it's also been combined with the chicken as well. So please don't hold the hot pan. I'm very like my hand can hold a lot of heat. So I can't leave like but my hand can withstand heat. I think over time it's just become very tolerant, but the pan is really hot. So what I'm just going to do now is to add it with the sauce to the rice and the charred broccoli. And sometimes, I don't know, some people like it on the side, some people like it to soak the rice, but for aesthetic sake, I'll just put it on the side like so. My family also loves this as well.
If I see 2 plates, I want to assume you're sending mine.
Yes? I'll be sending it by DHL to you, don't worry.
Good.
I'll be sending it by DHL. So yeah, this is it, guys. And let me add more here. As if it's just not me at home. I'm literally the only one in the house. But yes, everyone, this is, let me put this back on the stove. But because I like things spicy, I have some red chili flakes that I'm just going to put over the entire thing. Let me just pour it here so that's easy for me. So I'll just do some of this, some of this around. And that's pretty much it, guys. because I eat a lot of Asian food, I'm very familiar with chopsticks. Chopsticks is honestly a class I would like to host one of these days. So if you guys would like to
Please, I
learn
would
how to
sign up.
use,
I would so sign up.
if you guys would like to learn how to use chopsticks, I would be glad to teach. But this is pretty much the chicken teriyaki, guys. Let me lift this one up for you guys to see.
Oh, it looks really good.
And it's very easy to make. So yeah. Bon appetit, everyone. I'm gonna just try it. I think because another thing I didn't do, which is not good, is that you should taste it as you're cooking.
I was honestly going to ask, like, how did you do this without tasting?
Yeah, because I'm so used, like, you know, when you've made something so much that you know that the recipe is a foolproof recipe. But if it's your first time making anything, please taste it too. But yeah, this recipe, like, it's actually perfect.
By the way, which one did you use? Remember you showed us brown sugar and honey. So which did you end up using?
So I ended up using brown sugar, but trust me, if you use honey as a healthier alternative, it's also as good. Okay. Yeah, actually, it tastes the same, like they always taste. But the last thing that I didn't do was to add the spring onions. So the spring onions go on it, and you can either fry the spring onions with the chicken.
Okay.
But I like it fresh. So that's about it, everyone. And yeah, that is it. So let me even just wrap up with our conversation. Let me switch.
I have a question.
Go on, please.
Is the this recording going to be on the chat, on the group chat?
It's going to be on YouTube.
On YouTube, okay, fine. Thank you.
No problem. So what I wanted to say to what Pastor Faith said, and it was such a beautiful story, because a lot of times God would do something that will shock you, and it will make sense, and it will still not make sense years later. Like I asked myself, for example, you know, I'm the firstborn, but I'm almost 8 years older than my brother, and that gap happened because my parents just couldn't have kids after me. Like they struggled for a while to just have kids. It just wasn't happening, and it just made no sense. Like there was nothing that was evidently wrong with my mom. There was nothing evidently wrong with my dad. So why is, you know, in layman's terms, like why is her womb short? Like what happened? You know, so I'm sure, you know, and over time, you know, maybe relatives and things will start, there'll be speculations. Maybe someone will say it's a spiritual issue, is this, you should drink and go, you should drink this, they'll send different people to the house. I remember when I was still young and all these white garment people would be sent to the house for my mom to drink stuff. And I was just like, God, it did not make any sense why it took that long. Even to the point that I think they had just left the matter and just accepted that I was going to be the only child. And even me, I also was just like, it's just going to be me. And I just took my cousins as my siblings and everything. But it just made no sense. Like, God, why was the delay so long? Now, fast forward to my brother being born. I'm sure my mom still asks herself this question till my brother was going to uni.
Okay.
Like, what, why? Like, why did I have to wait? It was an excruciating wait, and it made no sense. And when it came time to, someone said, can I see the entire food? Let me see if I can actually do this. 1 second, sorry. So this is the food. I'm not sure if you guys can see on the second camera. Can you see?
Yeah, we
Jason?
can.
Okay.
And then maybe you can take a picture and then
I
we'll
can
put
see.
it
Yes, I'll do that once we're done.
once we're done.
Yeah. So it made no sense, Pastor Faye, and I just when you were talking, I was just like, I remember even for the longest time, I was just like, God, why? Like even when in us growing up, I would have loved for my siblings and I to be like similar ages. It felt like I'm their mom. It still feels that way because even my sister came came after my brother. So I'm 10 years older than my sister. So there's a big gap.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they even treat me like a mom. And I feel like their mom a lot of times. But then when it came to them going to school, university, I just realized I didn't turn this volume up. So it's echoing. So sorry. So when it came to time for them to go to university, around that time, my mom had my siblings in America just because, she was doing business there. I don't think it was anything planned, like how people plan to have kids abroad and everything. So they had the American passports. But when it came to them going to uni and everything, going to school there, their tuition was free. And I remember at the time, my mom just said to me, Ifepo, if God allowed me to have you and your siblings back to back to back, all of you would be Nigerian passports.
Sure.
And you would not have been able to afford your school fees.
Very true.
All of you. But God made it in such a way that by the time I was done with school, they were just starting. And by the time they were done with my uni, they were just in secondary and they were just entering secondary school or just getting started. And the sequence was now possible in such a way that they were able to financially provide for us at our different times because of that gap. It wasn't clustered up. And God obviously knew the journey that my parents would go through, and He had seen ahead that, this space would be needed for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So what I even just want to even add to what you said, there are things that have happened to me in life. Sometimes I was just seeing one of my girlfriends last month. I remember meeting a guy and he seemed so good to be true. He was an amazing guy, but God was like, no. And he just kept saying no. And I remember I was telling myself, maybe it's in my subconscious that I'm saying no. When you're trying to be disobedient. And I was just like, God, this man is so handsome. He treats me like a queen. He's so good looking. He's so this. And I remember opening my U version, and the verse of the day was, do not look at his appearance, for I've rejected him. The man looks at outward appearance, but God sees his heart. And I was like, this is just a coincidence, Jerry. I went to go and read my devotion now, Pastor Faye, and see what the devotional verse of the day was. That same Bible passage. So I X'd out of you version, and I was like, that's just a coincidence. And I said, let me just listen to a Joyce Meyer sermon online. What did Joyce Meyer quote? The exact same passage.
Wow.
I was just like, no, God, how can that door be closed? How is this not real? He is perfect. This is what I've been asking you for.
Exactly.
And throughout that week, I kid you not, Pastor Faye, that Bible verse was everywhere. Someone who quotes it, someone who say, my dad will mention it. It was almost like God was just ingraining to my head. Until today, I do not understand why. But I know God was telling me, flee. This is not my will. And if you do it, you're going to be like the Israelites and spend 40 years in something that will take you 40 days to recover.
Yeah.
So I just did, and I just accepted it. And there are some things we'll go through life where we just have to accept. And it will not make sense till we get to heaven. And I'm like, I want to get to heaven, and I'm like, God, show me why that particular guy. Like, why? You know, but you just have to accept, because I never want to be on the other side where I'm being rebellious.
Exactly.
And God I now go through wayo in the name of being disobedient. So I even just wanted to say that a lot of things in life will happen. It will not make sense, but we just have to accept that if God allowed it to happen in some form, in some type of way, like even seeing my mom now, how she has helped a lot of women that are going through their barren seasons, like that has been her ministry, and she has helped so, like, God used that journey and taught her so much about waiting, that she waited with so many women through their season of barrenness till they had their, and will pray and fast with them till they had their breakthrough.
The children.
And that God used that journey to become her ministry. So I just believe, like what you said, He makes all things work out for our good. And when He closes certain doors, and maybe he lets us go through sometimes some heartbreaking things, that's just like, God, like, I thought you were a good God. Why did you let this happen? Even in those moments, we just have to accept that He is God and He is good.
Yeah.
And it does not make sense, but He would still make all things work out for our good. And that's just my life. I think that's just my, I guess, if I could summarize my life as a quote, it's literally like, God just makes all things work out for your good, regardless of what you go through.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. Yeah. And I'm one thing I also know is that, like, there's no pain we go through that is a waste. You know, like, look at what you said about your mom. God always now uses it. And our pain, one thing I also know is our pain is not just for us. It's in the future to help other people not go through that pain. So while it's more or less like we're a vessel to help God deliver other people. But if you've not walked in certain shoes, you might not know how to help. Now, most people can honestly, come to your mom, to say, oh, I'm believing God, I'm trusting God, because she can understand. But then somebody who, okay, you just have, today you give birth now, give birth, the next time you give birth. I'm not saying that, but there will be something else in your life that will be your ministry. That's just what I'm saying. So you might not go through, it's not everyone that will go through the waiting period of looking for a child. Or, like I said before, we all have a waiting period. It's just different. Some people are waiting to go into school. Some people are waiting to get married. Some people, there is always a wait. But then that wait, when your victory comes, you realize at the end of the day that it wasn't just for you. It was for someone else. Because somehow God will then bring someone who is currently walking through that shoe that you walk through. And then you're able to help them, walk through it easier. Unlike when you.
Very true. I agree. And I think even with it tying into food, there are just some times when, like, for example, I'm sure the first person that made a braised lamb would not have thought this wait would be worth it. The 12-hour wait.
Very true.
Would be worth it. And people like Texans that are so skilled in barbecue making, it takes them hours in the barbecue. And I'm sure it took one person going through that season of wait. The same way it takes a farmer. I feel like farmers are the most patient people in life, because they wait years for a fruit. And it is worth it when you see the fruits that is actually harvested at the end of the day. And I think God even uses these practical examples in life to show us that the wait is worth it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And if God is causing a delay, just trust that He will it work out for your good.
True.
Yeah,
True.
that's amazing. Does anyone else have any questions before we end the chat? Does anyone have any questions for Pastor Faye, for myself, anything in regards to food or faith? Or are you guys good? Okay, I think everyone is good to go. I wish I could send you guys a plate, but I'm going to carry this and sit down and watch a show and call it a night.
You're going to send my own. You might not send everybody, but you're going to send my own. We already have a deal.
When you come back, we're going to do a remake.
Okay. I'm down for that.
You come back. All
Sure.
right, guys. Thank you so much to everyone that joined us here and chatted with us and asked questions. Thank you so much, Pastor Faye, for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mulayo, I have 2 plates. 2 plates, please. I can't possibly eat this except I'm a glutton. So come and eat with me. But yeah, it's been such a good time, and a lot. You know, when it comes to cooking, I know a lot of you are going to go to uni soon, and you're going to start cooking for yourselves. There are so many easy, quick recipes that you can just do and enjoy than having to break the bank. Buying it from a restaurant. This meal, I can easily tell you, it was at least $30 in our restaurants.
See?
But it's so cheap. It's such a cheap meal.
Very.
But the way we will plate it and the way we will turn it.
Exactly. For plating.
Honestly, this sauce would have used the paintbrush to just paint the sauce on the plate, and we would now let the sound like the tree of knowledge, good and evil or something. And we will start make that thing worth that 500 and that's $30, sorry, and it will still not fill you up. You will still go and buy McDonald's at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. Like now they can pick recipes like this, you know, since they're going to uni, you know, to help themselves.
Yes, and if you guys ever need any quick recipes, I write a bunch of my recipes down. I'll be happy to share them, and you can use this and share with your friends. So yeah, I think that is it.
That's about it.
All right, we can sign out. Thank you guys again.
Thank you guys.
Pastor Faye, love you. See you later.
Love you too, darling.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.